What's up, guys? Welcome to the Pickleball Studio podcast. Today we are talking about Will's trip to Major League Pickleball. There's a lot of really funny stories in this, so make sure you stay tuned, and we'll see you on the inside. All right, Will, so you just got back from MLP, and I have been eagerly waiting to hear these stories for all of you out there. He went to MLP, told me all these amazing things, and I have waited, what is it now, like 3 extra days to hear these stories just so you could hear them live on the podcast. So if that doesn't make you smash that like button or give us a rating on Spotify or iTunes, then I don't know what will, but yeah, Will, go ahead and tell me about this trip. And actually, really quick, before we get into that, I just want to tell other people the extra torture I went through for this.
Yes.
I do filmmaking. Like, filmmaking is my job. I've run my own production company for a long time, and I don't do weddings anymore. I never do weddings. They're not that fun for me to film. But a friend of mine who used to do speed cubing was like, hey, a mutual friend of ours who also did speed cubing is getting married. So do you want to come second shoot at his wedding? And like, as a second shooter for a wedding, you don't make that much money. But I was like, you know what? This is like a really old good friend of mine. I haven't seen him in years. I'll just lock it in, whatever. And I specifically looked at my calendar and went, are there any pickleball events that I might get hired for like 4 months from now? And I looked, I saw everything and was like, no way I get hired for any of these. Like, I'm not going to, no one's going to know me well enough by that time. And then, of course, I lock it in. And then, like, a couple weeks ago, I get offers from several people. I got asked about shooting a documentary at MLP. I got asked by Selkirk to shoot some stuff. And then there was one other thing.
You also got asked by me and my group to be a statistician.
Exactly. So 3 different people asked me if I could come to MLP and do some stuff, and it was the same weekend as this wedding. So the whole time I'm shooting this wedding, which was fine. I loved seeing my friend, but Will is taunting me the whole time, like, bro, look what you're missing out on. Like, check out this sick point. Look who I'm sitting next to. Look how much fun this is. And I'm just sitting there like, this sucks. So just let it be known that I missed all of this because I opted to shoot a wedding. I will not ever shoot a wedding again from here on out because of this.
Yeah, when I got to the venue, and then also when I got to the Airbnb that Ed booked or whatever, and I was like, dude, Ed, you don't have to book this crazy Airbnb. He's like, oh no, this is all paid for by MLP. And I was like, what? Show Chris.
Yeah. And the Airbnb was nuts. Like, it was a really nice Airbnb from what I saw. And I slept on a couch in a teenager's home. Like, I really missed out. Yeah. But anyways, tell me about this trip. I want to hear all about it.
All right. So set the stage. Of course, MLP happened this weekend in Newport, and this was their first, I guess, new location outside of Austin, Newport Beach. Great, in Santa Monica, Southern California, great weather right next to the beach, amazing venue. And I guess for those of you who don't know what MLP is, Major League Pickleball, and it's essentially a team format style of pickleball. Most cash prize given out to the winners. I think it was what? $100K.
It's $25K each.
$25K
so $100K for the team, 4 people on a team, $25K each.
Do you know what the second prize is if you came in second?
I actually don't. I was actually curious about that because I hadn't heard.
It's $6K each. So what's that? $24,000 for the second team.
Okay. So it's probably like winning first for like men's doubles or something at a regular tournament.
Yeah, but the gap, the discrepancy between first and second is huge. So, people,
it's giant.
People want to win. Like, you know what I'm saying? All right. Yeah. So basically, I'm going to MLP, and there was also another tournament going by, the Duper Waterfall tournament that was going on. So there's a lot of people there, and I really wanted to play. I've never wanted to play pickleball so bad, but I was working the matches, statting. And when I say statting, it wasn't anything too crazy. I was just basically keeping track of who was serving, who started the point, who ended the point, whether it was a kill or a winner, an out error, a net error, and how they did it, right?
Well, so I guess we should probably just like back up a little bit here, and explain how this statting even came to be, because stats are actually a relatively new thing in pickleball, period. So let's rewind to how we even got there.
Okay, yes. So the company is called 002 Stats. It's made, it was founded, I guess, by my buddy Ed Chow and his co-founder, or I think she's actually the main founder, Sasha Kadsat. Sasha, if you're watching, I'm sorry, I'm just butchering your last name.
Oh man,
I never
our
asked you.
professionalism just went so far down. Let's make it clear, Sasha, that he did not do his homework. He was with you the whole weekend, not me.
And then Ed's wife. And then, so how I met them. So I guess I need to backtrack a little bit more, okay, of how I met Ed, okay? So take it way back. Once upon a time, not long ago, when I was a young lad and I was playing 4-0, I was down in this tournament down in Texas waiting for my next match. And then Ed Chow, this guy, he came next to me and he sat. Oh, that was good. That was good, right? What'd you think of that? That was good, right? I'm not a rapper though. Don't come out to me at a tournament trying to battle rap me. I don't do that. Okay.
You know, I think you actually should leave this podcast because a rapping career will probably pay you more than I will. So.
Okay. Yes. No, I think I'm gonna stick to pickleball. No rapping. But
don't quit your day job. But
if you give me a few shots of Hennessy and you play the right tune, you might coerce me to like dance battle you. But that's about it.
I'll bring some next time we're together.
Okay, lovely. You've seen me drunk before.
I have. It was a sight to see.
Yes. A side note, I think I actually probably play a little bit better when there's a little alcohol in my blood. But maybe we'll test that out.
Not after what I saw. This guy couldn't even pick what cookies he wanted. He made my wife pick.
Okay. Anyways, moving on. We're sidetracked. Okay.
Yeah, we're sidetracked.
Ed Chow sits to me. It was at the Texas Open in November of last year. I'm waiting for a match. I can't remember if it was the gold medal match or not, but I think he's also waiting for a match. And there's a bunch of cabanas out at the Texas Open. Down in, was it? Oh my gosh, Rockwall, Texas, close to like Dallas and Fort Worth. My geography is bad. But anyways, he came to sat next to me. And the first thing that he said was, hey, can I sit here? And here's the thing. There's a bunch of other cabanas out there, with shade or whatever. And I was like, why did he decide to like sit next to me? And then, I go out and take a lay of the land and it all made sense. I'm the only other Asian out there sitting in all these cabanas. And Ed was probably like, oh, snap. Ed's Chinese. And Ed was like, oh, this is where I belong. So he came and sat next to me. And we started having a conversation. He's a great guy, super cool guy. And then, I don't know, he just found me like on Instagram and we just started talking. He found like the videos I do, like YouTube. And then he was just kind of being real friendly and we kind of became friends. And he told me that him and his partner and his wife, Elizabeth, shout out to Elizabeth, she's great. They were starting a pickleball stat company. And Ed's background is that he works for a company that collects box scores and stats for the NBA and NCAA. And Sasha, I think works like data and like logistics for Southwest Airlines. So they just kind of had the skill sets. They were also avid pickleball fanatics, And of course, Ed needs to test out some of his products, some of his tools, that him and Sasha were creating. And so, of course, he records his own matches, but he doesn't have like all the time in the world to like record matches and whatnot. So obviously he saw that I had a YouTube channel. So like, oh, maybe Will has some video, so we were talking. He asked me to send him some video to, so he could test out the product. And then he was testing out the product with some new people as well. And then other people who are part of the team that went down to MLP with me. So Ed, Sasha, his wife Elizabeth couldn't make it, but she was kind of like, I would say like the heart of the operation, like kind of like the project manager, made sure everybody got to the venue on time and did a lot of back end stuff. I mean, Ed and Sasha did too. And then there was Carol Emanuel, she's like the real heart. She's a sweetheart of the team. She's been statting stuff with Sasha in practice for a while. She used to also help Simone Jardim in Florida in some of her camps. So pretty sweet. Other guy, Ben Dobson, he is actually a statter for the NBA, like the Mavericks. And I think when COVID happened during the bubble, he went out to the bubble that was happening, where was it, in Orlando or something, and he was keeping track of the stats. So he has experience. AJ, recent graduate at TCU, is going to applying for med school. He had some time, came out, really cool guy as well. Of course, there's Ed, Sasha, and then there's me. Probably the least qualified. Probably the
No, but look, everyone else has the qualifications, but what you bring to the team is energy. You keep everyone fueled.
I don't know about that. I would say the most energetic person was Ben. Ben was like, yo, he was so positive. All right, so here's the thing. When we statted every single night, it was, I'll tell you, we'll go more into this later, but it felt like a huge group project that was like 80% of your grade in college. And after we did like all the work during the day, you know, trying to stat all the games, it was in teams of two. Like one team was at Championship Corp, and then I was on Grandstand with AJ, and we're trying to figure this stuff out. We have crappy Wi-Fi. The tools don't work without good Wi-Fi connection. So sometimes we're missing a few points, and what we had to do was go back, watch the stream to correct some mistakes that we knew we had or whatever. So the days start at like 8:00 a.m. We get there at like 7. We stat, and things don't end until like 9, right? And we don't clean up until like 9:30. And there's like really not too many breaks because the teams just continuously play because there's different pools. They have to play everybody. So we go back. By the time we get back to there, maybe it's like, 11 p.m. We shower, everything. Midnight, we're up until like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, trying to make sure everything is as accurate as possible. And then Sasha and Ed would spend another, like, shout out to some MVPs, spend another like hour, trying to make sure that that information gets put out onto the MLP website. And then MLP, they have like a developer that is out in like London or something that pretty much has the keys to the site essentially to make all the changes. So between all that and the time difference and everything and the stress and then waking up and making sure everything's good, like, yo, it was stressful. It was a lot.
Dude, I bet.
It was so much fun though. And I learned a lot just like watching the play. And I'm not gonna lie, there's some points where I was watching the play, like, I didn't know how to stat it. Like DJ Young, what do they call the scorpion? You ever seen what he does?
Oh, you're talking about when he flips over like this?
He flips over. He brings it over to his forehand. Yeah, he brings it over to his forehand side. He like hits it like this. And I look over.
Zane started calling that the tomahawk.
The tomahawk. Some people call it the scorpion. So I look over to AJ and I'm like, bro, is that a volley? Is that a backhand or is that a forehand? Like, what do we classify that? And while we're trying to figure out what we classify that as, like the next 2 points are just done because Anna Bright because Anna Bright just like whipped like a couple like pass like down the line and is just yelling insanely loud. And we're like, what did she say? What happened? Like, oh my gosh. All right.
I'm not gonna lie. I can't say I'm glad because I don't know. But based on what I'm hearing about stats and stuff, I'm glad I wasn't there for the stat side of things. I think for video side of things, it'd be great. But the stat stuff sounds rough.
Okay, it was rough the first day because, this is a new venue. And, MLP has done it in Austin twice. So they kind of got that a little bit down. And this is, I think, the first time they're airing on CBS. So we had other camera crew coming in. And of course, we are testing out 002 stats product like for the first time in this kind of like intense setting. So, we're kind of learning on the fly as well, but I thought we made it work. Day 2, much, much smoother. Once I understood like the capabilities of the internet, I knew like around lunchtime when people started coming in, I couldn't rely on the internet. I used my hotspot or whatnot. And then the tools that they use, I knew when to kind of like essentially hit the buttons in the right timing so it doesn't get backed up and like would freeze on me. And surprisingly enough, when you learn the names or can put faces to these names, it made it a lot easier because like I was like, wait, did okay, super headache when the Brassias, because they're on the same team, when they're playing, I'm like, was that Mary or was that Maggie? And we're like, oh shoot, I don't know. Stuff like that. So like day 2 was much smoother. And funny enough, that's my fault. I didn't do my homework because Ed and Sasha actually sent me flashcards with people's names and faces to like try and help memorize.
Wow, they came prepared.
I didn't not look at the thing like one bit. I totally relied.
Okay, so now I know if I've got you helping me on stuff, I gotta hound you and make sure you listen to my homework.
Okay, no, it's fine.
They tried to make your life easier.
Yeah, it was.
And you were like, nope.
It was my fault. But by day 2, I got it down.
Good.
And speaking of Anna Bright, okay, like MVP of like the event, she's hilarious because she's known for like just yelling and being super intense, right?
Yeah.
So in one of the matches, I think it was in the last day, maybe it was in the finals or whatever, she hits this ball down the line and she yells, "Yeah, come on!" And it was out. Like it was like, it wasn't necessarily close, but it wasn't also like very clear, but like you could tell it was out. And like she's the only one like yelling and everybody like shh. And then like you could clearly see that it was out, and then she turns around and she's like, I tried. Like she was trying to sell it real hard and I died. I was just like, oh.
So like she knew.
She knew
it was out.
She was just trying to sell it. And like I was like, yo, that's hilarious, yo. I dig it.
That's actually pretty funny. That's pretty great.
That was hilarious. And then, it was funny, like, so in the first day, because we had hiccups, and I'll tell you the differences between championship court and grandstand. So championship court was, I guess, statted by Carol and Ben. They had like no issues. I think maybe because the Wi-Fi router was like right next to them, because there's like
stronger signal.
Yeah, stronger signal. There's like championship court, and then there's like a building like with like food and stuff like that, and then it's like grandstand, and then the rest of like, I don't know, 20 courts at MLP. And they had no problem, and they were right next to the booth where the commentators were and stuff. And so like the commentators and the refs on their side were mic'd up, so when they announced the score, they could hear them. All right.
I see.
And they could hear the commentators like saying, oh, J.W. Johnson to serve. And so they, I know who serves. Over on grandstand, refs were not Mike. And the scoreboard, who was manned, like, there's like just a big computer screen or whatever. Sometimes nobody was manning it, or sometimes it was wrong, or sometimes that TV or whatever would overheat. And like, I'm statting and I'm like, I have one score, but the score on the TV shows something else. And I'm freaking out because I'm like, oh my gosh, am I f***ing up? No.
Do you want to know how you get on the good court?
How?
By looking at that flashcard
homework.
Oh my gosh,
I knew you were going to say that. Do your homework. Sasha,
they knew.
The
they
best
knew.
court next time.
You know how like on text you have read receipts? Like those cards had built-in read receipts, and they knew those receipts weren't read.
You're done. I'm glad you didn't come, because you would just roasted me the whole time. Actually,
that for sure. No, my job would have been to keep you in line.
Okay, it actually would have been worked out. Like we could have been a duo. Maybe at the next one.
We could have been miserable on grandstand court together.
Yes. Okay, and here's a few funny stories about grandstand court. Okay, we're gonna go down the list from what I remember. Okay, so grandstand court, I'm sitting on a balcony, or that's like 5 feet up, or whatever, and over a banister, and I can like look down on the court. It was actually a really nice view. The thing was that the place was not really sectioned off very well, so the public can like come behind me and watch or whatever. And the amount of times that people would come up to me while I'm standing, trying to pay attention, like, hey, what's the score? Or they thought that I had control of the scoreboard. They'd be like, hey, the scoreboard's off, or it's off. Like, can you guys fit? And then I'm like, yo, shut up. I'm doing work here. That's not
working.
me. Yes. Oh my gosh. All right.
Oh, that would be so frustrating.
So frustrating. But like after a while, we zoned it out, and because I really needed to talk to my partner AJ to see what was going on. Because the way it worked was I'm on the computer and I'm hitting the buttons. He's watching the match and he's calling out what's going on, and I'm supposed to be watching. Yeah, I'm supposed to be watching as well. But like I have to make sure that
that's actually good though. That makes sense why you had the second person. I guess I didn't really piece together what the second person would be for. I just thought you were both statting, but having one person who's like dedicated to watching and someone who's more of the button presser, that makes a lot of sense.
Right. And we had a system now that like if something was slowed down, like backed up on the computer or slow connection, they would start writing the stats down so we can go back and fill it. The only thing was that it was tough because sometimes like we didn't have a system, at least the first day, to know what point that was or what time that was. So like what section of the stats that he would go into the stat sheet. So we had to go back and figure that out. So there are some like workflow things that I think we can work out to make things more smoother, like on our ends as statters. But back to the thing. So AJ's calling stuff out or whatever. All right, we're on this banister, right? And there is an awning, but on our side, like the awning ends. So we had some umbrellas, and we didn't put these umbrellas here, but one of the umbrellas leaned heavily over the banister to cover the cover the sun coming at us like around like noontime or whatever.
Sure.
And there was this one point. It was Andre Descu, awesome guy. I love. He's one of my new favorite players. He's smashing overheads against Deckel bar. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's smashing it from the odd side. And Deckel's obviously plays the left side as well. And it's getting wider and wider, like towards us, right? And I'm looking at AJ and I'm like, it's not coming over. Daisy's going to finish this off. But Deckel kept on returning these. Oh my gosh. And I was just like, no way. And then there's this one shot he hit. It was so shallow. Deckelbar returned it with a backhand, lob back up, but it hits underneath the umbrella. And like me and AJ's heart just sank because like it wasn't his fault. And that ball was definitely going back in. And the Deckelbar was just like up in arms. He didn't look at us. Like, I don't think he was his fault, but he looked at the refs like, redo? And everybody was like, oh. And then like me and AJ are looking at each other like, fuck, right?
Yeah.
Obviously he didn't get a redo. They lost that point or that rally. I felt terrible. And like a few moments later, I feel so bad. I try to move this umbrella, but that umbrella is heavy, right? And so in my mind, I felt like everybody was looking at me and I was moving. It was screeching and I felt like everybody was just staring at me. It was just super awkward. I was mortified, like,
I thought you were going to say like you're moving the umbrella and it just like breaks. And,
no, heck no.
Okay.
Heck no.
Oh,
No, that would have been horrible.
No, but still totally. It's like trying to open like a snack in like a quiet room and the thing is just like
yes, no, super
it's just
awkward,
like terrible,
or like your phone like goes off in the movie theater or something like that. That's what it felt like. All right, and then
that's terrible.
The next part, like just on grandstand, it was just very distracting because people around us all the time, they're talking, they're yelling, and so next to me, two ladies come by and they like sit next to me, stand like next to me to watch the game. Okay. And there's one lady next to me. She's super into the match, right? She's like yelling, clapping, and her clap is like she's standing up, and I'm sitting down. So her clap is like right next to my ear. And let me tell you, this lady had the most thunderous clap like you've ever heard. Like it was just like reverberating in my brain. Like it was like.
I hope so badly that whoever this lady is listens to the podcast.
No, I hope she does too. We're gonna tag her. Okay, so here, let me finish the story. Okay, so of course the game is going by quick, so I didn't have a chance to like ask her to like, hey, like, can you kind of like keep this down a notch or whatever. And so I'm trying to talk to AJ while she's yelling and cheering on, which is great. No, honest, her energy was awesome. And I was like, yo, what just happened? He's like, I don't know. I'm writing stuff down and we're trying our best. And then finally there's a changeover because in MLP, once you hit 11, they play to 21. Once you hit 11, there's a changeover, right? So I then kindly asked the lady, like, hey, ma'am, not that I don't mind you here. I think it's great that you're here and that you're super into it, but could you please keep the clap down? Could you just clap just a little bit softer because I'm here static? And she gives you this big smile, grin to grin, and she's just laughing. She's like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm so sorry. I have 2 kids and they hate my clap. They absolutely hate it. And I'm like, yeah, because you got a good ass clap. And I was like, yo, if your clap was a pickleball player, it'd be 6.0 plus. Like,
okay, that's so funny that, okay, first of all, that her clap was seriously this good. When you said it, I was like, well, I wonder how bad it actually is. And then it's even funnier that her kids are like, they hate it too.
No, and here's the thing. It doesn't even look like she has some sort of secret forbidden technique or something. It doesn't even look like she's like hitting that hard. And it's just like boom, boom. And then, you know, she was really friendly and everything. So we got to talking or whatever. And, you know, the Duper tournament was also going on the courts, you know, far ahead. So I was like, oh, okay. Are your kids here? Are they playing? You know, where are they at? I said, oh yeah, my kids are here. They're right over here. And she points down at grandstand. I'm like, what? He's like, oh yeah. They're Georgia and JW. And I was like, oh, shit, it's Julie Johnson. It was Julie Johnson. AJ was like, I looked at AJ, and AJ was like, yeah, dude, that's Julie Johnson. I was like, yo, I didn't know.
How did you not? You told Julie Johnson to shut up, basically.
No, I didn't.
Oh my goodness, Julie, if I highly doubt you watch this podcast, but I apologize for my co-host. How rude of him to tell you to stop clapping.
I politely asked her to, could you just take it down a notch or two? And then when, so we got to talking and hold on. So we got to talking and then, oh, here's the thing. Finally, when she told me she was Julie Johnson, it all made sense. There's like gears that turn in my head, like puzzle pieces just click. So now I was just like, oh dang. No wonder J-Dub and Georgia got some of the best hands on the tour, man. Like, she has this amazing clap. No wonder his hands are so fast. You know what I'm saying? It all makes perfect sense. It was, you know, a gift from the gods inherited down through her genes.
The day I meet Julie Johnson, I am absolutely gonna just be like, I need you to clap. I need you to clap for me like you're clapping for your kids right now. Like, I've heard so much about your clap.
I'm telling you.
Honestly, this podcast episode is probably going to make everyone who listens to it go up to her and be like, I heard about your clap. And she's going to start being, where did people hear about this clap? And it's going to be like, these idiots on this podcast made this popular.
It was something else. I'm going to tell y'all right now. It was something else.
That is so much funnier that it ended up being Julie.
Yes,
I mean, it was going to be funny anyways, but that is hilarious.
Yes, a little icing on the cake. So that was like kind of like a, oh, wow, kind of like a, I would say almost like a celebrity kind of moment for me. Like, you know, I wasn't even really paying attention because I'm so focused on the match, right? So let me think. Let me see. There was another funny like celebrity kind of moment. So on championship court, there's like a VIP section, right?
Okay.
And all sorts of people came through. Like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was in the house. Obviously Drew Brees, because he's a team owner. Sam Querrey came through. You know, he's like, you know what, top, I don't even know if he's still top 50 or whatever, but he at one point I'm pretty sure he was top 20 like tennis players, you know, cool guy. And then there was this one lady, maybe she was a guest of somebody, but it was funny. She came up and she went to Steve Kuhn. And for those of you who don't know who Steve Kuhn is, so like not a big deal, but Steve Kuhn is the owner of MLP. He started like the whole entire thing, right? And this lady goes up to ask us, hey, yeah, you know, she's just mingling. It's like, so she asked Steve, didn't know who he was, and was like, hey, so how are you involved in all this? Like, who are you? And it was just funny because Steve could just give a chuckle. And it was just like, like he just put his hands out like,
I own it.
yeah, exactly. But like, I think before he got it, like, he wasn't like, you know, he was super nice about it. And I think before, like from what I could see before he was starting to explain it, like the match was going on, they just started paying attention to the match. But I just thought that was like really funny. Like, you know,
no, that's super funny.
Like he wasn't rude about it.
That's really great.
I mean, if it was if it was me and like I owned MLP and somebody came ask me, and I'd be like, I'd look at them with the side. I'm like, bitch. You know who I am?
Oh my goodness. It's still pickleball. No one knows anything. You didn't know who Julie Johnson was. So let's calm down here for a minute.
You right. I'm gonna give that person a pass, you know.
Julie Johnson might be more recognizable than Steve Coons. So well, yeah.
Yeah, all the stuff with their kids or whatever. So that was one.
So I mean, so this like experience of this whole thing. So I don't know, because how long were you there? 3 days?
Yeah.
For the event.
For the event was 3 days, but I came Thursday. And the event started Friday. So we came Thursday morning. And thank goodness we came Thursday because we went to go like check out where we would kind of be, you know, where we would sit.
Do your stuff.
And then we would also practice. So like we split up into teams and then like Carol and Ben would stat me and AJ while me and AJ were playing on grandstand, and we were playing rally scoring. And this is my first time really playing rally scoring, like MLP style. And I have to say, after playing it a few times, like I don't mind it.
See, this is literally what I'm saying. Like when we talked on the rally scoring podcast episode, everyone, and actually a post just came up today that I saw that was just another like rally scoring sucks or whatever. And every comment was universally just like, I hate this. And again, I am completely fine if pickleball never changed. I am not against the system we have now. I think it makes pickleball appealing in a lot of ways, but I think with rally scoring and a lot of the hate it gets, I think for a lot of people, it's the concept of it and them hearing about it that they hate it, and they haven't actually tried it yet. Because when I tried it, I literally didn't have a problem with it. I was like, this is still fun. Plenty of people are like, I would quit pickleball if they went to rally scoring. And I'm like, come on, it's still, if you're telling me the only reason you play this game is because of the scoring system, like get out of here. I understand it changes the game in a lot of fundamental ways, but it's still a great game, even with rally scoring.
Right, exactly. And I would say the way that MLP executes it, it's still fine. I think like the freeze at 20 and 18 is actually fine. I think I still would prefer that I serve to different people every, you know, on the switch up or some other system. But as it stands right now, it's actually not that bad. And it made for some interesting choices. Like, so, you know, you always serve to the same person. You always receive from the same person. This actually allowed me to dial in my serve, you know, and then see my opponent's tendencies. And then, you know, there was like a mini game within that game. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And that was kind of fun. And I guess that also came about in one of the finals. Zane, like so most of the times in the mixed games, right, the guy would play left side, right, and the women would play the right side, because typically the guys play the finishing position, the finisher position, and the women play kind of like the reset kind of position, right? So what's interesting is that when Zane and Paris Todd played against, I believe it was Simone Jardim and Rob Nunnery, Zane would play the even side. Well, he didn't play it. He would serve the even side. So he would serve to Simone Jardim, but then they would stack every single time because that matchup was good for them because Simone...
So were they still stacking normal where when Zane was serving from the even box of the right side, his partner was still to the right of him?
Yes.
Like they didn't have to swap left and right, did they?
No.
Oh, okay, so it was still regular. I wasn't sure if they were more strict about where you had to stand or whatever, but
no,
okay, so it's just literally regular stacking.
Regular stacking, yeah. And Simone had a tough time with Zane's spin serve, and I think I heard through the grapevine that somebody said that Rob was complaining, oh yeah, Zane and Paris won because Zane just spin served Simone Jardim out of the game or whatever, and I don't know, like maybe he was over exaggerating. I know Simone had a tough time with it, but it wasn't like she couldn't return it, but you know, maybe it did look like she had a tougher time than some other people with it.
How many points do you think were won? Well, okay. How many were like pure aces, point ends on the serve versus just ended up being a weak return?
Most of them, I would say like 90% were like weak returns, maybe even more than. I'd have to check back with like the stats and the numbers, but I can tell you that for the most part, when I statted the whole entire event, I rarely got any points on the serve. Like, how did the serve end? I never selected the serve option. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So it was probably most likely just Zane or Paris just crushing a weak return. And then,
ball. Okay.
I don't know, watching Zane's spin serve, I was like, I mean, it's gotten better, but it's not that good in my opinion. Like, compared to Porter Bar, or even like yours or your brother's, even mine, I'm like, it's not that great in my opinion.
Yeah, I literally played against it back in June. We played 2 singles matches, and then we did a 2-on-1 against him, and he used to spin serve almost the entire time. Not as much the second game because he was kind of just toying with me at that point. Yeah. But like, he's doing his spin serve, and it's not hard to return.
Yeah.
Not that it's not necessarily good. I think it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's definitely not Porter Bar level. I think Porter Bar for sure has the best spin serve in the game right now. I don't even think that's debatable. Yeah, I think it's uncontested. But it's like, if you've played against these any amount, Zane's isn't that bad. Like, I've been playing against spin serves regularly for the last year, and I have no issue. So, and, you know, I'm sure because of, Simone plays a lot of APP tournaments. I don't know. There's probably just not a lot of pros that are doing spin serves anymore.
Yeah, or doing it at the level that we're doing it at. Like, you know, like you, even Isaac, you know, Shea, Porter Bar, like, have great ones. Even my spin serve was really good in California. I was hitting it, and in the matches I was playing, I got to play against like Brooks, who's the president of MLP, Chad, one of the announcers for MLP, and Ben Dobson, one of the other statters, was watching all the games and stuff, and he played against me too, and he was like, dude, Will, like, your spin serve is up there. Like, I haven't, like, Zane's does not kick nowhere nearly as much or whatever, and I felt bad because I almost broke his ankles before he statted the next day. He's like, dude, like, he literally was
breaking his ankles and he had to stat everything.
Yeah, he literally ended up cross. Yeah, he literally ended up cross-legged on one like serve or whatever, and he's like, oh my gosh, like, you know.
Yeah, I think with the spin serves, it just, I don't know. I guess the only real benefit of the doubt I can give is they just don't see it as much. Like, you know, I play against my brothers who both do it regularly, and, you know, a handful of other people in Minnesota that do them. So I'm used to seeing them all the time, whereas if you're playing the Pro Tour and you're playing all the same people all the time, unless you're playing like Zane or John Cincola, I'm probably missing 1 or 2 other people, but those are the main pros that do spin serves. Mm-hmm. So it's like you've got 2 people to like practice hit this against consistently, and then you're talking about a game or 2 per tournament, if that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you might not see it, you might not be as used to it, but again, I just don't think it's that hard to return. Like, my brother's serves, as soon as I see where they're standing, I know where I need to line up. Like, with my brother's serve, I know when he's trying to do the one that puts it in the fence, and he doesn't put it in the fence before I can get there. Everyone's always like, that one's impossible to return. It's landed almost in the kitchen. It's not. It's just a lot of anticipation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's... anyways, that long segue just to say, interesting that it is such a problem even at like the pro level, because I just feel like it's manageable.
I actually don't think it's a problem. I think it's just a problem for some people. Everybody else that Zane played against and he hit the serve, like, everybody's returning it, no problem. Sincola's too. His had a little bit of kick, but it only does one way, and so it's pretty easy to see. A surprising little fact. When John Cincola plays the Dream Breakers, like the singles portion of matches, he switches his paddle from the Pro XR back to the Engage Pursuit.
You know, I think I did know that. I think I've heard that, actually, that he doesn't like it for singles, and something about his contract lets him do that.
No idea.
It's really interesting that maybe he does like more semi-Western or something in singles, and he just doesn't, because the Pro XR forces you in a continental. Maybe he doesn't like it, or who knows? Maybe he just prefers how the other one plays for singles. But that's an interesting contract to have, where they are letting you not use it for one event.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I mean, that was most of my like MLP experience. I would say that the finals, the last day, was kind of a wash. Like, all the teams got swept 3-0.
Yeah, I tuned in for the final, and I was definitely expecting, spoiler alert, if you have not watched this, I'm about to spoil something. So this is your warning. But anyways, just thought I'd put that up there so I don't hear someone message me angry. But BLKQ, I definitely thought they were going to win it. I didn't get to watch basically anything the whole weekend because I was shooting this wedding.
Yeah.
But it sounded like they were just killing it. And obviously they won the last one, so there's like some expectation of doing well. And I thought in the finals, I was like, either this, like, they'll win in a blowout or, you know, maybe it'll at least be a good match. They lost in straight 3, didn't they?
They lost in straight 3. And granted, the men's
game, 2 of them weren't even
close,
right?
The what?
The women's and mixed weren't close, were they?
The women's, I have to go back and look at the score. I'm like just numbers rolling through my head.
Or actually, well, okay, sorry. I was thinking men's and mixed because I tuned in at the men's portion. I can't remember if they got up to like 12-ish or somewhere in that ballpark, but I don't think they passed 15. And I feel like in MLP, when you've got rally scoring, if you lose and your score was 12, I feel like you got beat pretty handedly.
Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah, no, it was wash. I don't know if it was because, you know, Paris played a really tight Dream Breaker the night before, and she injured herself. She injured her knee. I don't know if you heard about that, but she had this amazing dig. Like, she did a slide, like a full tennis slide, ended up in the splits, dug out this ball, and she was on the ground, and she, like, yelped, and the point was still going, and Zane took over. It's 2 versus 1, and he almost won, but, like, he lost it, but... He was going at it. Would have been so
epic if he won the point.
I know.
Could you tell right away that Paris was out?
Yeah, as soon as she got
up. Like, was it, like, obvious? Like, okay, like, you know, one of those things where, like, someone slides and you, like, hear something snap?
You didn't hear anything snap. You just heard her, like, screech and it was just, like, kind of the way, like, she, like, came down on the ground. And when she got up, you could tell she was limping. And then there took a little bit of time to figure out what they were going to do. And then this is where some controversy happened between, well, not this is where, well, we'll get to that in a sec, but this is where a sub came in. Like, can you sub for for the rest of that game, or how does it work or whatever? And here's the thing. During that match, Zayn and Paris, I honestly forgot who they were playing against, but they were up like 2017, and Paris was like, nah, we'll just finish this off. And she was just playing really tender, like, you know, not herself or whatever. And Zayn kind of took over, but they still lost that game. They lost the game like 22-20 or something like that, because they were just attacking Paris or what have you. And then they went to a Dream Breaker. And when they went to the Dream Breaker, Paris couldn't play. So they got a sub in Lacey Schneemann. She killed it in the singles. She was like, I think, former USC tennis player. I feel like she's not that much taller than me. Like, she's probably like 5'3", but she could hit, and she was
nice.
She was breakout. Like, she won all of her points or whatever. And then the only other sub situation I can remember was the whole thing with Rob Nunnery. I don't know if you heard about that.
I only heard briefly that something happened and the rules kind of changed as things went on.
Yeah. So I think the sub rules, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm still not the most familiar with the MLP rules. I'm sure Rob and the pros are much more familiar. So from what I understand, we all know Rob has had injuries, like stuff with his knee and stuff in the past. He's been recovering and recuperating. I know he tried really hard to recover and recuperate for this event. And something happened. He didn't want to exacerbate his knee, so he decided to get a sub, and they got Gabriel Tardio to come in. Killed it. Gabriel Tardio head-to-head against J-Dub, and he crushed it in singles, doubles, and he was a stud. And then, something happened where he was planning on coming back to play the next day or the next match or something, but he comes back, and then he finds out that because he subbed out, there should be some sort of consequence. And the consequence that they made up on the fly was you can't play the next match or something like that. And obviously, Nunnery came back with full intent to play the rest of the match, and feeling that it was well within the rules. Now, some of the other teams and the players were like, that's not cool. You can't just sub out and then have somebody young and fresh come in on day 2 or whatever to take your spot for singles or what have you. So people are upset about that, especially when, a decent amount of money is on the line. And I don't think there was any, from what I could tell, obviously I was busy, I wasn't in the thick of it, but from what I could tell, I don't think anybody was upset at Rob, for doing what he did. And obviously what he did was well within the rules, and he double checked this. And, I think he's mentioned this before as a potential tactic or strategy. Nobody said anything. And then to get this flipped on him or whatever, I'd probably be upset as well. And other players, I could see that being upsetting. So I know that, they had a talk and everything, kind of got squashed. Other than that, the event was great. And I think even Rob even said it was if I knew this would be the rules or whatever, I would have played singles
so that I could played singles.
I would have just played, and he would have probably just either taken the L's or played tenderly or whatever, just not going all out, so he could save his.
Well, it definitely makes
knee.
for. I mean, this is kind of the growing pains of figuring these things out as a sport goes on, but. It is an interesting thought of well, yeah, how do you handle that? If you're okay, well, I'm not injured to where I can't play.
Right.
I just don't really want to push it. How about we just sub in someone who's great and fresh and doesn't have issues? That is an advantage to your team. You took out a tired or partially injured person for someone who's been waiting to get in there.
Right.
So it's an interesting thing where I don't think if you sub like that it should go without consequence, because otherwise, what's to stop you from being well, I'm not as strong as a singles player as our sub
and you can
would
make
be.
up an excuse or something like that.
Yeah, just my arm hurts.
Right.
And obviously, to Rob's credit, obviously everyone knows Rob has had knee problems. It's not I'm not saying Rob made anything up. Obviously, it was just he's still recovering from his knee, but. How would you prevent someone from making something up in the future,
Right, exactly. And that was the thing. And, obviously, I'm going to give, like I said, I don't think anybody was hating on Rob. I'm going to give Rob the benefit of the doubt. I think he's a fantastic player and fantastic person. So, I don't think he would have done something like that. He wants to be an advocate and a positive influence on the sport. And doing something like that would not be... shed the sport in a positive light. So, like I said, I don't think any of the players were upset at Rob or whatever. They were just kind of upset that the rules were not set in stone. Yeah. And, I can see why players are upset because, real money is on the line. And, Steve Kuhn and Brooks, the owner and the president of MLP, I think made some decisions just to make sure that, trying to get the best product out there possible for the spectators and the viewers. And I thought that they still did a great job, even with that aside. I think everybody understands that these are growing pains. Other than that, I thoroughly enjoyed the event. I thought the MLP event was amazing. And I think if you haven't been to a pro tour or a pro event out there, I actually think MLP is the best event to attend, to experience high-level play and just have fun. The atmosphere is...
Well, I mean, honestly, even just from the live stream and little highlights I caught, audience is significantly more engaged at something like MLP than they are any other tournament from what I've seen. A lot of tournaments, they kind of look like snooze fest, either not that many people or there are a lot of people and it just doesn't look that exciting. I was literally seeing people stand up, clapping, screaming.
Yeah, Julie Johnson.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to experience firsthand in your ear.
Yeah.
So it definitely sounds like an extremely exciting event to go to.
Yeah, extremely exciting. I think they just need to fix up some of the streaming issues because I know they had streaming issues from the get-go with internet and stuff, and then also it's their first time with CBS showing up, so the media team and whatnot are trying to figure things out, where to put their stuff and whatnot, and so it's a learning experience. But I think if you're a fan of the sport, a spectator, even if you want to compete, even that duper waterfall tournament happening, it was just a great event. And also a funny thing, Ed, shout outs to Ed from 002 Stats, my boss essentially. I think he was running on literally 3 hours of sleep every single night, and he signed up to play in the 5-0 tournament for the Duper Waterfall or whatever on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
and he was gonna back out. I was like, yeah, man, you should back out because he has to do some back end stuff, getting like the info and the data to the developer so they can update the site and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
he still played, and
How'd he do?
he came in second. He should have won though.
Second. Wait, should have won. Why? What happened? Controversy?
No controversy. It was they won the first game like 11-4 or something like that. And the second game they were down like 5-0. They came back and they were up like 9-7 or something like that, and somehow they lost. And I don't know if he was tired or whatever. They figured him out or whatever. But I knew one of the guys that he was playing. His name is, I think it's Walter. He's from San Diego. I played him when I went to San Diego last time. He's a pretty good player. But I was like, yo, Ed, you had it in the bag. That would have just made this weekend all the more sweet.
Yeah, all the more sweet.
All the more sweet.
Yeah, you get to stat one of the biggest pickleball events happening right now, and then you also win on top of it.
Yeah, and you get some money on top. Shoot,
dude, that would be great.
Yeah,
dude, it sounds like the whole thing was a ton of fun. I really wish I could have went. I think it would have been a blast.
No, it was a blast.
And on top of that, I think, well, maybe we would have missed the deadline by the time I knew that I was possibly going to be going to MLP, because I think I got contacted like a month before MLP was happening, so I wasn't running on a lot of time. But would have been sick for us to both register and then compete in the duper thing. Not that you probably would have had time with all the stats, but
I don't think I would have.
That's the problem with working in pickleball versus like just playing pickleball. And I've learned this from speed cubing already, and I'm trying to find ways to better balance it in pickleball, and I don't think I found it quite yet. But it's like, if you want to have a really good time in pickleball, you want to have access to things like early, you get flown to events, you kind of like inside the stuff more. It means you're probably working and you're valuable in some way that has you doing a lot of work, which then means you miss out on a lot of actually playing and enjoying the sport. In some ways, you're hopefully enjoying it in another way. Whereas if you're like purely just there to play, yeah, you got to pay your own way there and, you know, get your own paddles or whatever. Maybe you don't have as much inside information, but now you just get to enjoy it as a player and get to do whatever the heck you want instead of just working.
Yeah. I still met a lot of people, had a lot of fun, and I really wanted to play. So after the day was kind of done, or I was done with my matches that I had to stat, I went out to go play. I met Kyle, that pickleball guy, super awesome dude. Love that guy.
I can't wait to meet him.
Yo, he has so much energy. Like, the positive vibes coming off of Kyle is awesome. He's going out and he's like interviewing everybody and stuff, and it's pretty cool. Like, you know, how he just kind of can just jump around. And,
dude, I'm telling you, eventually Pickleball Studio will be big enough, and we'll just all relocate you guys. You, Shay, Kyle. We'll get our own office. Each person can have their own court. Do whatever content they need to do on their court. They got their own little office next to it.
Yeah.
Dude, it would be sick.
That would be sick. Let me see what else. Let me see who else I've met. I don't know if you know Shelly Wong. She's another like kind of pickleball YouTuber. She just does a lot of rec games, but I appreciate her rec games because she has the scoreboard and the stats, like how many touches or errors a person makes. So if I want to watch rec games, I pretty much just watch her channel. And I got to play against her and Austin Gridley. That was actually a lot of fun.
Nice. I really love playing against like much better people. Like, I got to play a ton of rec games. I should post some of these. This is why I need somewhere to like put my rec games.
No. Shay's supposed to make a channel for all of us where you just post rec games. You should call him.
I know, but it hasn't happened yet.
just call him. He called me today. I couldn't pick up because I was busy with something, but yeah.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. Dude, when Shay calls, you stop what you're doing and you answer the phone. But yeah, no, like I got to play her a bunch and it was super fun.
Wait, who are you talking about?
Actually, playing Susanna Barr when I was in New York. Seriously, it was like 3 hours of rec games or something. It was actually just nuts. I also got to play with Dominic, one of the announcers from the APP. It was super funny. We'd been playing for a while. Andrea Coop is watching us. And
Andrea Coop is a killer.
I start trash talking like I always do. Like, even if things aren't going that well, my whole deal is like I just love to trash talk. So I can't remember what I do. Like, I hit a couple like nice shots and go past Susanna, whatever, and I'm just talking trash like, oh, you couldn't get to that one or whatever. And Andrea Coop is the only one watching us from the bench. And she goes over and she's like, I hope you know, if she wants to start trying, you're not getting a ball back. And like, I don't think we scored after Susanna started trying really hard.
That's hilarious.
Like, she just mopped us. So, yeah, pros
I met
nuts.
Susanna at the event too, really great meeting her. She was doing really hot like day one. And then as the days progressed, I think her performance like went down. I feel like one game, it was just, I don't know what happened, but she hit like a few just like dinks or dink volleys into the net, and I was just like, oh no, it's just going down, because I started one of those games I was rooting for, and she was doing like the Susanna bar. I call the Susanna bar a like block push or whatever. She puts two hands on the paddle. And
I know exactly what shot you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about, right? It looks like she's like pushing hay or like pushing water out of a sinking boat or something like that, and I'm like, oh. Here it comes.
Like throwing the water out the bucket.
Yeah, throwing the water out the bucket.
Really quick, because I was going to talk about this earlier, but so Anna Bright got the MVP, right? I never did.
Her and Jackie Kawamoto. Do not sleep on the Kawamotos. They are solid. I think I just remember statting them, and like they rarely made any mistakes. They were just so solid.
Sure. And so in that final, Anna Bright was so insane in the mixed match. They're like, when it was getting tighter and Rafa and Irina kind of they knew they had to step it up, do something different. Mm-hmm. Like the next few points, Rafa and Irina are just blasting balls at Anna. Like literally hammer, like the kind that if you're an amateur, you turn around and you're like, yeah, just hit me. Like, it's over. Like, and Anna's just like killing it back. And all these points, I'm like, okay, Rafa just hit like a pickleball like 1,000 miles an hour with the paddle or whatever. And then they lose the point. And I'm like, at that point, I was literally watching and I was like, this is what breaks your spirit. And you just like give up. You're like, what more can I possibly do than hammer the ball at this person?
Dude, no, their spirits were definitely broken. And I remember in that match, that like Irina lost that. I felt so bad because I think she hit like 5 backhand dinks like into the net.
I remember there were quite a few unforced errors that felt very out of the blue to me. Like just not normal.
Not normal for Irina. I think it was, and I could tell she was real upset about it. Even like after the post-match interview, somebody said something, asked Irina, was like, so, being the incumbents, the former champs, how does it feel coming into this match and, having it lose, or basically how did it feel to lose the way you did, essentially? And Irina was like not having it. She was like, I'm gonna deflect. She literally said, I'm going to deflect the question and give a shout out to whatever, and then she bounced, and I was like,
post match stuff like that is hard.
It's hard.
Because I remember, I don't even try and sympathize with people when they lose necessarily, or like, oh, like it's okay, because I just remember, like in my speed cubing days, like if I got second at a big tournament that I was like really hoping to win, when someone's like, oh, but you still got second, I'm like,
shut up.
But I got second. Yeah. I'm like, I
didn't come here to get second. I came here to get first. Like either give me first or give me 10th. Don't give me second, because it's like I was so close. I know, I hate it.
And I was never upset at the people, but like you're so still like mentally upset with yourself that hearing like, oh, it's fine, like doesn't really help. So like when I see someone like that, I tend to just like give them space and let them like walk it off, because usually for a lot of people, time kind of just like winds you down or whatever. And it's like saying, oh, it's fine, like you're still amazing, doesn't mean anything, because in that moment you feel like garbage.
Exactly. Right. No, I totally agree. You know who did feel like garbage out of that? Who's feeling outclassed? I felt like the most happy person. I mean, like Anna Bright is always just like crazy, like intense and energetic. But James Ignatowicz. James eat a sandwich. That's what I called him.
Eat a sandwich.
Yeah, James eat a sandwich. James is a witch. And whenever James did not back up from the kitchen line and he still made the ball come back, I was like, oh, that's James. It's not a bitch. Like he was just crushing stuff. Yeah, I love statting James's games.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he was
That's
just
hilarious.
so smooth with it.
I hope that catches on and we start seeing that more.
Yeah, no. I when I ask him for a Pros vs. Joes episode, like I'm gonna call him James Eat a Sandwich. And
I love it. Oh man, I hope you get to start doing more of these Pros versus Joes.
Well, hopefully after this it'll happen. But yeah, man, it was so much fun. Like I said, MLP, like I think the future, I mean, I don't know. I think it is, or I think it should be kind of like the future of pro pickleball. Like I just think it's the best product out there right now. I mean, obviously it has room to improve. And I mean, Selkirk Labs tried to do their own thing, like just like 40 minutes up north, you know, did you hear about that? The Selkirk Labs Invitational Showdown?
I heard all about it. I didn't get to watch much of it. I followed it very loosely, but I just didn't have time over the weekend.
Okay. Funny thing is that after that ended, I saw some of the Selkirk Labs Invitational people come to MLP. I saw Colin Johns. Like, I hope this doesn't get, Colin, I hope this doesn't get you in trouble. But I saw Colin come through, you know, cheering for a few people. I mean, it was nice, honestly, to see that. I know we have this story in our mind, like PPA, ABP, you know, they got bad blood or whatever, they're head to head. But I mean, at the end of the day, they're just players who love the game. You know, they're providing entertainment for us. And, you know, they're just showing support for, you know, their friends and their other players. So it was nice to see Colin come through, you know, supporting all the other players. I heard Jay DeVilliers was in the house. I didn't get a chance to see him. But yeah, I heard some of the PPA people came through to say what's up and, you know, show face. And it was a nice touch. You know, I'm not gonna lie, it warmed my heart just a little bit, just a little
That's
bit.
That's good.
You know, my cold.
So I think
cold
what
heart.
we'll do is, your cold heart. Yeah, whatever. Get out of here. If you had a cold heart, we wouldn't be friends. But I think we'll get ready to wrap it up here because we're at a pretty good amount of time. But I do just want to talk a little bit more about, you were saying kind of just seeing this as, you know, possibly the future of pro pickleball. I think there are a lot of really interesting elements when you take the format of MLP. Obviously, it's not perfect, but MLP is in like its second year. They had one event last year. There's still a lot to get figured out because they haven't done very many of these, period. But I think you care more when you're rooting for a team rather than like, okay, like let's look at pro pickleball as a whole right now. Teams change all the time. Like there are people who have more consistent partners. Obviously, I have Ben and Colin. They're just glued together.
Yep.
But like you see, Anna Lee will be with different people. You know, Jay's been with Tyson a good amount of the year. But like partner mix-ups happen all the time, so you're not really getting to cheer for a team in regular pro events because you're like, oh, Tyson's with whoever this weekend because they had to line up their partnerships a year in advance, year and a half in advance, and blah, 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 blah. I just think when you get to root for like four people and you see how hyped they are on the court and like for the whole event and you see them rooting on the sidelines for their teammate, the whole event leads itself to be more exciting for broadcast. I think for storytelling stuff, it ends up like if you were doing like a Formula One type series, way more interesting to follow a team throughout a year and the trades that might happen rather than like, oh, tournament 1 at the start of the year, Tyson's playing with Jay. Tournament 4, he's playing with Tyler Loon. You know, like it just keeps changing and changing and changing. And you're like, I don't really care because there's not a lot to develop here.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, I totally agree. And that's why I was also excited to do some of the stats. And granted, we only was recording the errors, but you know, I think that's really valuable for the teams. Like if you're a team owner, you have some of these, you know, this data, you can start making decisions for your team, like who did well, who didn't do well. Maybe you can potentially start looking at matchups, and then the commentators also have something to talk about, like, oh, they had this matchup before and this is how it went down. What do they need to change this time to come out on top? I think that'll all be interesting. And I know I sent you some of the stats. I don't know if you got a chance to look at it or if you saw anything that was, I don't know,
only really briefly.
Yeah. It was just kind of interesting to see that, like, it didn't tell. I wish we could do more. Hopefully, you know, Ed and Sasha and we get invited back to do more. I know it's on their roadmap to collect more data, but it tells more of a story. Like for example, in some of the mixed games, right? The kill to error ratio for the guys is just super high. I think I saw Zane was like 7 at one point. Like, you know what I'm saying? Something crazy.
And for reference for everyone, on average, well, okay, I can't necessarily say on average, but from peeking at the stats, a lot of times you're not over 2 for your kill to error ratio. You're somewhere between like 1 and 2, generally speaking. And if you didn't do well, you're below 1. Like below 1 means you did not have a hot match.
You didn't have a hot match. Typically, we don't have enough historical data to basically see like what numbers are considered good or really good.
Or
it's
bad.
It's kind of like saying like, at the top of the line car back in, I don't know, like 70 years ago, the top, it was like, 50 miles an hour, like, and that was like top of the class. But nowadays, like, 50 miles an hour is like nothing. It's trash, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have enough historical data, but like there's a lot that goes into it. It still tells a little bit, like, because in a mixed match, right? Let's say the women's kill to error ratio is a lot lower. Let's say it's like 0.5 or 0.8. It's not 1. Right? That doesn't mean they had a bad match, because typically the women in a mixed match hit more balls, right? So they could have seen all the balls, didn't have enough chance for any kills, and the kills that they did get, they missed. And let's say Zane got 7 chances to do like an overhead or a kill, and he took them and he got them. So his kill to error ratio is super high. So another interesting stat would be to see how many touches they got throughout the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, did they stack? What kind of misses were they? Volleys? Who attacked first? Things like that. And I think these things will only help the product get better. And I'm super excited that MLP asked us, to go out and take a crack at collecting stats. It's going to happen, like, eventually. And I think it's exciting. I mean, especially for like guys like you and me, we love numbers. I mean, I know you love the numbers.
I am a numbers guy.
Yeah, I don't look it, but I like the numbers decently enough.
Yeah. Well, I think, stats in all forms of things in pickleball just kind of help push the industry forward. Like, people will learn more about their matchups by being able to see stats. I think with paddle stuff, I feel like the RPM stuff has been fairly beneficial. I was actually looking at my sheet, and the numbers have improved quite a bit since I started this sheet.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think like just because I made this sheet, like companies were like, oh shoot, like we got to do better. But like the numbers are quite a bit better. And I think at least with some companies, it helps prevent people from being like, oh, well, we can just get away with calling this like our Ultra Galaxy carbon forged graphite out of gold from the Cayman Islands, and it gets the best spin in the world. Like, it prevents people from doing that and being like, yeah, it's good. Now it's like, oh shoot, there's this punk kid on YouTube who's gonna tell us we lied.
You tell him.
I don't know how many people feel that way, but there's got to be at least one company out there that's like, dang it.
We can't lie to them anymore. They're getting smart.
Yeah, they're evolving. The consumer's getting smarter. But yeah, anyways, I think just numbers and stats as a whole is like really going to help push the sport forward. And I think it's going to be really cool to see how 002 Stats develops as a company and like the ways they can kind of improve it for future events.
Yeah, right now, if you're watching, you kind of want to check them out. They do have a website up. It's the number 002stats.com. I think I don't know if they're still offering this service, but their service before was like you send them video and they would stat and they'd give you a sheet. I don't know if they're still doing that right now, because I think right now they're really trying to work on their product to get it refined.
Did you get the paycheck for plugging their website? Because I didn't. I don't have any money in my bank account, and we just gave. I don't know if we can give those away for free, man. We're still operating this podcast at a net loss right now.
We'll send them an invoice later. They'll have like a 90-day net. That time to pay us.
Fee triples if they don't pay.
Yes, that's right.
But yeah, no, seriously, check them out if you haven't. I think in the future it's going to be a very cool thing for sure.
For sure. All right, cool, man. Yeah. I think that's about it. That's my time at MLP. Hopefully you'll be joining me the next one, whether you'll be helping me stat or whether we'll be at the next MLP event doing some sort of, video project or something together. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, this was great, dude. Thanks for sharing your story. This was a lot of fun.
All right. Peace out, guys.
Later. Thanks, guys.